Spelman College, the iconic all-female HBCU in Atlanta, says it will accept transgender women beginning in the fall of 2018. Spelman College President Mary S. Campbell told students, faculty, and staff in a letter the decision comes after a task force spent a year looking at the issue. That including listening sessions with students, faculty, staff, and alumni, and studying other single-sex women's colleges' positions on transgender women. In the letter, President Campbell wrote, Spelman College, a historically black college whose mission is to serve high-achieving black women, will consider for admission women students, including students who consistently live and self-identify as women, regardless of their gender assignment at birth. She added, in adopting this admissions policy, Spelman continues its fervent belief in the power of the Spelman sisterhood. But the announcement sparked a fierce debate on social media. On Spelman's official Facebook page, the reactions curated by the college were proud and strongly supportive. But on Twitter, some worried that admitting transgender women would somehow ruin the school's reputation. Others even suggested that transgender students on Spelman's campus could be in danger, partly because the school is so close to the all-male HBCU, Morehouse. Joining us on FaceTime from Atlanta is Landesha Smith. Derishlu is a trans activist who attended Morehouse College and is president of the Claudette Mason Foundation. And on Skype in New York is Randian Morris, a Spelman College graduate. She is also a female-bodied trans individual who is a professor at Columbia University. Good morning. It's a pleasure to have both of you join us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So Sharandia, let me start with you. What do you think about the announcement by Spelman College?
Although I am a Spelman alum and trans-identified, many people are shocked when they hear that I actually disagree with the decision of the institution, despite the fact that I also hold in tension in that same moment that Spelman is renowned and progressive, and I am not surprised. And I'm actually proud of my alma mater for the decision, despite the fact that I disagree with it. I think that this issue, trans inclusivity at large, is more complex and nuanced than a binary yes, accept, or no, do not accept students, and that yes being viewed as inherently supportive and no being viewed as inherently transphobic. I actually disagree with that binary, and I hold all of that at the same time. And I also believe that there's a huge benefit and need for segregated spaces, whether that's along race, sex, class, ability lines. I don't believe that every single space should be integrated, and I believe it's okay that spaces are cisgender specific or transgender specific. And I believe there's a value in having spaces for a full spectrum of an identity. I don't think Spelman College is the latter by design. I think, and that's okay. I mean, it's part of the magic of the institution, but I don't think Spelman is inherently designed. Spelman is inherently designed for cisgender people who are assigned female at birth, and those sit together, possibly in tension. And so back to the larger reason that I disagree with the college's decision, Spelman in many ways reflects our larger or macro society. And it's become better and more equipped at handling issues of sexuality and sexual identity, but even yet has to master how to create a safe and brave space for existing non-binary, trans-identified, non-cisgender students. And Spelman, like the larger macro society that it sits in, is not necessarily prepared to deal with issues of gender diversity on top of that, on top of institutional inadequacy around sexuality. And that's reflective of blackness, of Southern Christian blackness. And so, but I'll stop right there because I feel like we're going to have a conversation.
We're going to have a conversation. Let me turn to London. London, your thoughts on the issue. You just heard from Zarandria, and I suspect you disagree.
Well, Zarandrian, I love Zarandrian and I respect Zarandrian's opinion. However, I disagree as a trans woman of color who attended Morehouse, and some of the difficulties that I faced while trying to transition at school and starting with hormone replacement and so forth. I was faced with a lot of adversity. Currently, I am sitting on the committee, on the implementation and policy committee with Spelman, and a lot of people are so focused on a policy that's already passed. The thing is that it's no use of beating a dead horse. The policy has been passed by the Board of Trustees as of Tuesday. So now it is the job of the implementation committee to put in policies and practices that will impact the safety of the students. A lot of people are so concerned about the safety of cisgender people, but I ask right now, can you show me some statistics where trans people are attacking or hurting cisgender people? But I can show you some statistics right now where cisgender people are killing trans women, specifically trans women of color. We've lost 17 this year alone.
London and Jerandrian, I'm going to interrupt you just for 1 second. I want to introduce our panel and bring them in because we're going to have a very robust conversation. Joel Payne, Amber J. Phillips, Brandon Cooper. What do you think? Do you have? Let me first of all ask you all. Does anyone have a question for London or Jerandrian?
Yeah, I do. I want to know, especially from London's perspective, being a trans woman of color, what I agree that we need to focus on what's next and how to make Spelman a safe environment. What are some of your top recommendations for professors and the administration for welcoming trans women into the space at Spelman College?
Thank you so much, Amber. Let me first say this. I, as a member of the Implementation and Inclusion Committee, it is an honor to stand on the right side of history. It is our job passionately, effectively, and efficiently deliberate to create safe space for the consortium-wide students, faculty, but it is important for us to educate people. What I find is that it's the ignorance,
Right.
it's the lack of knowledge that becomes problematic. I also believe that people have to understand that safety and health are comprehensive and that there are multiple components and multiple layers to protecting. And there's a physical as well as a non-physical component to health and safety. I think that that is an important factor that we need to look into, whether it's with the health and health services at school or whether it goes a little deeper as far as creating visibility. I think that one of the important factors that is often forgotten is that a lot of trans people are not included in some of these decision-making policies. So I commend Spelman for having myself a part of this committee to be a trans voice. I think that visibility is a key component, as well as hiring. See, a lot of people love to solicit trans people for knowledge, but don't want to pay.
Yes.
They don't want to put faces and pay for it. And in this instance, I think that Spelman should look into hiring and having images that reflect the student body.
Zorandrian, what's your response to what you just heard from London?
Well, the thing between me and London is that I don't disagree with her. And again, hold those things at the same time. I refuse to be pushed in binaries of if I feel this, then I also feel a laundry list of those things. I completely 100% agree with London. I think that even and when I think back almost 20 years ago during my Spelman tenure, I didn't see visible images of trans folk. Feeding back into my previous conversation, I didn't see visible images of even people who weren't straight. I didn't see visible images of that. So I think Spelman, and if we are critiquing the actual decision making, feeding back into what London was saying about using trans and brown trans folk for their knowledge content with sans payment or sans compensation. From what I understand, there were no trans alum or trans folk outside of maybe current students who were on the task force to make the decision. So how, even if the decision would have been made, regardless of whatever, how differently or more beautiful could this have been rolled out? How can we include trans voices to make it a truly safer and braver space since the decision is made? So when people hear me say I disagree with the decision of the college, I don't disagree with what London is saying, and I don't disagree with the idea of trans inclusivity and how Black and brown trans women of color have been murdered and how we have a Black trans man who was recently murdered by an intimate partner. I think Spelman can do and that is why I support the fact that Spelman is progressive. Spelman can do an amazing job at being trans inclusive if done well, but that also butts up against historical and cultural ideas around Southern Christian Blackness. And Spelman is still our whole school for Christ. So how can we, now that the decision is made, roll it out in a way that really is affirming and not just lip serving?
Right.
I think that there's an argument to be had that this is a civil rights issue. It is where the nation is culturally, and I think many people will embrace the fact that the African American community starting with Spelman College, is embracing the fact that we have transgender people amongst us, and they have the same civil rights as anyone else that wants to go to Spelman College or any other college or university in the nation. London and Zarandrian, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to speak with you this morning. It'll be interesting to see the rollout at Spelman College.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.